and start praying for them, for their healing, so they can get their lives better. And when they get their lives better, watch, it's going to get better for us all. He said one surefire way to know how you're doing the right thing, he says, do unto others what you would have them do to you if the situation were reversed, if the shoe was on the other foot. If you were in their place, what would you want to have happen? Now do that. Jesus said, forgive your brother from the heart. Go a second mile. Do good to those who spitefully use you. Don't seek to be repaid. Don't pay back evil for evil. Do good. Hello? For 2,000 years, Jesus has been teaching a contrary way of imagining the world. Things like this, which Jesus actually did in his daily life, as well as teach to his followers. Things like this would serve as a partial antidote to the unloving disease that seems to have taken over. It would bring us closer to understanding the essential love that God has toward the world, toward the whole world, no exceptions. Now, does that seem hard to grasp? Fortunately, God's love is not constrained by our inability to grasp it. It's not bestowed unevenly on some select few who have earned it at the expense of the many who haven't. No. God's love is the basic foundational reality from which all else springs. And it's a gift. Divine love is not measured out because of our merits. It's not earned because of our good deeds. It's simply bestowed unsparingly on all God's children. God so loved the world that he gave, and he continues to give. I like the portrayal of Jesus that's on our banner over here, where his arms stand open and his hands are empty. It's like an invitation to approach him. But the gesture also reminds us that he holds no coins, he has no keys, he has no book of rules. We can't buy what's given for free. The keys to the kingdom of heaven are not earned through our obedience, as Nicodemus thought they were. But they are available to each of us through love. We can trust God's love, come what may. And I want to say, don't let anything in life, don't let anybody in life scare you off from the love of God. Don't let them tell you you've got to have fear of the Lord as the beginning of your righteousness. Leave that behind. God so loved the world, loved the world. Love is a 4-letter word. We should use it more often. It's yours. God's love now and always. That's the good news that Jesus brought into the world. You don't have to fear the Lord anymore. Get over it. Get on with it. Get up. Get going. We are loved by God by virtue of our being, not by our doing. God loves us because of who and what God is, not because of who or what we are, not because of what we do. I have to say, too, the devil is not in charge of this world. God so loves this world that God is in charge of this world. You and I, in our day, just like Nicodemus and Jesus in their day, as well as the likes of us all over the globe, have the power to make a difference for the good or for the evil. We can make a difference in the saving of the world. Now, I know there's plenty of prosperity preachers on TV and big churches that tell us that the measure of God's affection is proportionate to what we are willing to give up for God, what we are willing to sacrifice. In some cases, they say, make the sacrifice by contributing to their ministry, right? 1-800-sendmoneytogodthroughme.com. They have a Rolex on their arm. They've got a Range Rover in the parking lot that show proof positive that God blesses with abundance those people who champion God's cause. I've heard it. You've heard it. They remind me of those indulgences controversy that provoked Martin Luther to launch the Protestant Reformation 500 years ago. If you remember, there were 95 theses that Luther wanted to debate. But the first and most numerous were his complaints about the doctrine of indulgences. The Roman Church, and we're not picking on anybody here, the Roman Church was our church for the first 1,500 years of our existence as a church. So it's our church we're talking about too. The Roman Church, back in those days, taught that the saints of old had done so many good deeds, during their lifetime, that they had excess merit, more merit than they could possibly use, beyond what they needed to get them into heaven. They were in heaven, but they had all this excess merit on their account. And those merits were available to us mortals if we paid for them. Kind of like carbon emission credits in the cap and trade polluters. Right? Got so many over here, I'll trade them off for some of yours you don't have. Or the credit default swaps the Wall Street bankers came up with that ruined our economy so quickly. There was a treasury of good deeds, merits in heaven, won by the saints, which could be used to offset the moral debts of other people who didn't earn them, but they could buy them. A person could draw upon the treasury of merit, which the saints had deposited in heaven by their excess of good deeds. In Luther's day, the Pope sent out an official salesman. His name was Tetzel. He had official paper documents from the Pope called indulgences, which for a set price would transfer credit from the treasury of merit into someone's account, your own account, on the eternal ledger books. So when St. Peter checks at the kingdom of heaven gates, if your name is there, you got all these credits that the saints have won for you because you paid your donation. Or you could buy an indulgent for a loved one. When the coin in the coffer clings, a soul into heaven springs, was the slogan. All Saints' Day. Now, Martin Luther says we are saved by faith alone, sola fide. By God's grace, sola gratia, not by works, not by earning merits, especially not holding on the apron strings or coattails of somebody else's good deeds transferred to our account. That was unacceptable church doctrine to Luther. If the world that God loves and hopes to save is going to be saved, it's by the way that was taught, demonstrated by God's Son, Jesus Christ. That's the way in which the world will be saved. And it includes good and godly behavior. Yes, not because you're paying your way in or earning the merits, but it will not be saved by making financial donations to your local church. Sorry, folks. Sorry, stewardship campaign. I can't twist that arm. And that's because, as I said, we cannot buy what is already free. And God's divine love, God's grace is free. See, by definition, grace is a gift. It's unearned. It's undeserved. We're loved by virtue of our very being, not because of our doing. It's like the dictionary said about the Spirit. It's our essential conscious being, our mind, our life, our breath. It's all gift. We didn't earn it. We don't deserve it, but we got it. And we should say thank you. Over the centuries, the church had forgotten that our gifts, our lives, are gifts from God. They're not merited, they're bestowed. And they forgot that we exist only because of who and what God is, and for God's reasons. They had forgotten, we too may easily forget. We cannot earn our way into God's grace any more than we can sin our way out of it. In fact, that is so important. I'm going to say that sentence again. We cannot earn our way into God's grace any more than we can sin our way out of it. In order to receive that grace, which is always available to all people at all times, we just have to acknowledge we need it. That we are not complete without it, as it says in the 12 steps program. First step is I have a problem that's driving me crazy, a problem I can't fix. Second step is, but there's a higher power who can assist me. And the third one is, and I'm going to reach out and bring my life to that higher power and see if we can get something done, so to speak. We're not complete without recognizing God's presence. And it's our pride that tends to keep us from accepting it. Again, I go back to Nicodemus. He achieved much in his lifetime. He had very high social standing. He was respected as a ruling temple Pharisee. He was a teacher of the law. But he couldn't let go of all of that in order to be born again, born anew, born of the Spirit. You see, a newborn is devoid of pride, devoid of status. To be a newborn infant means you're going to be entirely needy. You'll be vulnerable, and of necessity, you're going to be open to receive the love of a parent. It's a dependent relationship. more codependent than independent. Nicodemus wasn't sure he was ready to risk radical trust like that in Jesus' dynamic, changing God. What about us? We trust in God. Our faith, our hope is set on God, not on our own understanding, certainly not trusting our own efforts, not relying on our accomplishments. So maybe we, unlike Nicodemus, are willing to be born anew, to be born again, to be born over, to be born from above, born of the Spirit. Ganananosen. All those words are equal translations. And we should be born that way today and every day. Born again and again. And with each breath you take, each new day, and again and again. And each day say, thank you for this gift. Thank you for your love. Thank you because you know me. And you know all about me and you love me anyway. All till we give that breath back to our Creator who breathed in us the first time. Now to do so, really to trust God, to risk trusting an unknown, uncontrollable part of life, will be, as Jesus says, like trying to harness the wind. You're engaging a wind that is blowing where it chooses. Now it's going to be fresh to do so. It'll be free. It'll be powerful. And it may be a bit confusing because the whole Spirit thing is invisible. And we don't know where it's coming from. We don't know where it's going to, but we are willing to trust it. Trust is the meaning of faith. Trust. We trust it because we know that God is a lover who so loved the world that he gave us Jesus to save us. And so it is, said Jesus, with everyone who is born of the Spirit. So, church, let's get on with it.